5. Nomadland. Director Chloe Zhao trades in a similar realism for her portrait of Americans sent scrambling across the West, uprooted and displaced by economic crumble or by their own unslakable wanderlust. Zhao has, for the first time, found the movie star to work with, Frances McDormand, who is perhaps uniquely suited to vibe with Zhao's spare style. What Zhao and McDormand do here is, as Zhao often does, explore a community living on the margins of modern America. Mostly older folks disenchanted with or simply tossed out by the grinding machinery of economy. They are vagabonds both merry and morose, eking out livings in vans and trailers and finding itinerant work at campgrounds and Amazon fulfillment centers. Zhao and McDormand's gaze is never pitying but always empathetic. A deep compassion animates Nomadland, which largely avoids the nasty cliches of Hollywood poverty fables. See Hillbilly Elegy. The film doesn't really make any definitive conclusions, because there are probably few to be drawn, at least in the specific case of McDormand's character, Fern. In a larger sense, yes, we can extract certain things from Nomadland, about the failures of our already threadbare social safety net. About the ground currently slipping out from beneath an entire middle class's feet. About what actually led to an Amazon package's arrival at our doorstep within 48 hours of purchase. One takes those insights away from Nomadland, while also reveling in its humble beauty. There are the breathtaking American vistas, captured with a loving and curious eye by Zhao, and there are the moments of small personal transcendence, which give Fern's hardscrabble life, and so many others, the fuel it needs to churn on. 4. Bad education. We've reached the corruption portion of this list. First up is Cory Finley's exquisite Bad Education, a 2019 festival film picked up by HBO, where it quietly dropped on a Saturday in the first months of the pandemic, not getting nearly the attention it deserved. Bad Education, written by Mike Makowsky, is a fascinating character study of embezzlers within a Long Island school system. It's a movie about liars, ones who tell themselves as many untruths as they do the people they are grifting. There's something deeply scary about Bad Education. Not just because it exposes the shifty, squalid inner workings of two locally esteemed people, Superintendent Frank, Hugh Jackman, and his deputy Pam, Allison Janney, but because of what it provokes from us in the audience. Do we want to see them taken down? Sure. But also, we root for them in an unsettling way, which tells us something rather grim about the passes and excuses we afford powerful people. Finley lays out his film ingeniously, letting the scandal start as a tiniest thing, then growing like cracks on a windshield until the whole picture is totaled. It's a moral thriller, really, one acted with keen precision by its cast. Jackman is especially persuasive, unctuous and pathetic but perversely magnetic. Bad Education doesn't graft neatly onto the kleptocrats looting America right now, mostly because the latter camp's villainy was so immediately obvious, but it does say something instructive about what people think they can get away with, and about how greed can topple even the most outwardly noble pillars of community. 3. Collective. This shattering documentary, from Romanian filmmaker Alexander Nana, speaks more directly to the here and now. It is about a corrupt government's catastrophic response to a public health crisis, and an investigation that uncovered a staggering failure in the state's duty of care. If that sounds familiar, it should, quite terrifyingly. Collective's most salient and dismaying point is that corruption is a terribly difficult cancer to fully excise, even after the worst people in power have been ousted. The film follows newspaper reporters and newly appointed government officials as they respond to a tragedy, a 2015 nightclub fire in Bucharest that left dozens dead and many more badly burned. Horrifyingly, many died while in the hospital. Victims of bacterial infections run rampant because the disinfectant products used by hospital staff were illegally diluted by their manufacturer. Nana traces this boggling scandals unfolding with little editorializing. There are no talking heads, no dramatic score to guide our reaction. He lets the pervasive rot at the center of the story speak for itself, as he does the humble heroes working to shine a light on it, and maybe repair it. I say heroes, but Collective is not a feel-good documentary about journalists speaking truth to power, or about idealistic young public officials cleaning up the disgraces of the past and present. Those strains of hope do exist in the film, but Collective mostly serves as a reminder, or a stinging call to awareness, of how truly fucked things are. What a Gordian knot bad government makes of the systems meant to sustain and better our lives. The film ends on a note more rattling, more devastating than anything else I've seen this year, in movies, or in the news. 2. Minari. A sweet family drama that never cloys, Lee Isaac Chung's semi-autobiographical film brought a much-needed grace and kindness to this often unkind, graceless year. The film concerns the Yi family, Korean Americans who moved from California. Mom and dad are natives of Korea, to rural Arkansas in the early 1980s. Jacob, Stephen Yoon, grew up in the country, and hopes to impart to his American-born kids the value of working the earth, of growing and making things from the soil of their adopted home. His wife, Monica Yurihan, is more skeptical, but she is tentatively willing to support her husband on his quest for this most traditional of American dreams. Hardship ensues, as do moments of warmth, triumph, and connection. Chung crafts his film with a delicate ache. Minari passes by in a lilting hush, hallowed faintly in the glow of memory. The film really belongs to adorable young Alan Kim as David, perhaps Chung's stand-in, and the terrific Yoo Young-yeon as Sunya, Monica's mother. She moves to the family's trailer all the way from Korea, bringing with her the attitudes of the old country, but also a refreshing levity. A good humor about this family's struggle that gently reframes their perspective. This is not a sassy granny movie, though. Chung resists that kind of cinematic indulgence, keeping his picture modest but deeply felt. Though there is plenty of sadness and strife in Minari, it remains resolute in its optimism, not so much about what America as an idea can provide for immigrants, but what decency can provide for people who need it, what love can, too. From that goodness, a life can grow, even in a place as inhospitable as this. 1. The Nest. Another migration story, of a sort. Sean Durkin's bracing chamber drama follows a seemingly well-to-do 1980s family as they move from a comfortable life in America to a big, dark manor house in the English countryside. It's immediately apparent that things aren't going to go well for them, but the pleasure of Durkin's meticulously constructed film is the surprising shapes that inevitable ruin takes. At times, The Nest feels like it might become a haunted house movie, or maybe a marital thriller involving murder, or maybe a stark coming-of-age tale. Instead, Durkin and his cast, led by Jude Law and a towering Carrie Coon, do something subtler, less easily defined. The Nest is about a particular time in the Western economic imagination. Reagan and Thatcher were deregulating their houses down, thus creating a new kind of rapacious gold rush mentality, but mostly it is about family, the tenuous bonds of blood and marriage. connections that can turn from dependable to peculiar in a terrible instant. Durkin manages to wrestle out some actual positive sentiment from that morass of distrust and disappointment. Which is, I think, the ultimate message of The Nest. There is still something left after it's all come crashing down, still some collective spirit to cling to as we begin to forge something new. It's not quite a parable, nor is it exactly a cautionary tale. The Nest is something utterly singular, chilling and poignant, inviting and aloof. What a fine mess it makes. And then, just at the very end, maybe begins to clean up.